want to enjoy life with the sweat of their own brows. The whole universe is full of fruitive workers in all species of life. The fruitive works include all kinds of economic development plans. But the law of nature provides that every action has its result and reaction, and therefore the performer of the work is bound up by such reactions, good or bad. The reaction of good work is comparative material prosperity, whereas the reaction of bad work is comparative material distress. But material conditions, either in so-called happiness or in so-called distress, are all meant ultimately for distress only. Foolish materialists have no information of how to obtain eternal happiness in an unconditioned state. HG Nārada informs those foolish fruitive workers how to realize the reality of happiness. He gives direction to the diseased men of the world, how one's present engagement can lead one to the path of spiritual emancipation. The physician directs the patient to take sweet milk in the form of curd for his suffering from indigestion due to his taking another milk preparation. So the cause of the disease and the remedy of the disease may be the same, but it must be treated by an expert physician like Nārada. The Bhagavad Gita also gives the same solution of serving the Lord with the fruits of one's labor. That will lead one to the path of naiṣkarmyaṁ. First of all, I want to thank my audience for being here. Very beautiful to see so many. I've given many classes here, but not so many. It's good to see a live audience. Just Prabhupada says demigods are there, of course, but they're very hard to visualize, not even for me, especially for me. So, personalities, thank you for being here. So, what we want to say about this verse is that this is the beginning of introducing different incarnations. So in this particular chapter, he's given a quick review of different incarnations. I think there's 22. First it was counting, we kept counting in Sanskrit, then it kind of lost the count. I think the last two were not counted. But I think there's about 22. And the interesting thing is that only the last 10 are the ones that we worship as ācaṣṭa. The first 12, we don't worship Nārada Muni as ācaṣṭa. It goes without saying. Then we have Chaubis, Ganta avatar, 24 avatars. But of course there are unlimited avatars. Krishna says, I come in unlimited form, millions of forms. I was mentioning yesterday in one of my talks. Krishna says, I come in so many forms as there are, more than there are grains of sand on this planet. So that means unimaginable. That is Krishna. He comes in unimaginable. He says, I myself am kind of bewildered by it. Krishna himself is thinking, I don't know, I can't remember. How will he remember all of it? Krishna lives in the moment. Isn't that the whole idea of Krishna consciousness, to be in the now? That's why Krishna plays in Vrindavan. So it's very interesting to try and understand these chapters because it deals with, you can say, cosmology, what you can call Vedic cosmology, Puranic cosmology. It's not exactly the same, but cosmology, and it deals with creation, sargaṁ, deals with sargaṁ. So in the material world, when they deal with this, what is this called? What do you call this kind of information dealing with cosmology and different planets and avatars? It starts with an M. It's called a myth. It's called generally accepted, it is explained as a myth. So when you look at the word myth deals with events that we cannot understand by ordinary intelligence. It's metaphysical or it's above logic. And that is the whole point. All of this, when you're reading this, like, I don't know, any of you hearing this for the first time, please raise your hand. If you're all familiar, okay, very good. So when we're hearing this, you might think, wow, I never heard this. This is quite amazing. So you might, not maybe right now, but later you think, do I believe this? Should I believe this? How should I understand this? That was the first thing you say, how am I to understand this? Because you cannot apply That is the problem here. There's no logic involved. Neither is there any emotion. See, when there's an emotion, then you can say, oh, I can identify with, it could be Shakespeare or it could be anybody. You can, Hamlet, you can identify with Hamlet. You don't have to be atheist or theist. There's Hamlet. Oh, wow, suffering. So, but when you read about creation, there's no emotion. It's just, because I've been deeply thinking, of course, I've heard this, not ad nauseum, but ad infinitum, I've heard it so many times. So I think, how do we understand it? So Prabhupada gives the clue, and I alerted my audience to this quite a few times. And a few days ago, when somebody gave a class on this, on the shloka number 3 of this particular verse, and the person who gave the class did not focus on it at all. But it's the greatest trick. There's a trick to understand this. And you've heard me say many times, many of these teachings have a trick. You know why there's a trick? I tell you why. Because we are in the material world, under the 3 modes of material nature. How do you think I'm going to understand the transcendental world when I'm here? I cannot understand it. But I may have faith that it is so. So this is why our teaching give me shraddha. You have to have some faith. If you don't have shraddha, you're not going to go anywhere. So it begins with a little faith. Say, yeah, I have faith, I'm going to listen. Then shraddha. Then you might repeat kirtanam. Then you might even remember something. It still doesn't mean that you believe it. You see? So the trick word is, I asked you before too, is kalpito or kalpana. What does kalpana mean?
Imagination.
Imagination. So try and understand that what is given here, I'm not saying it's imagination, but it's given in a formula meant for absolute neophyte devotees. So for neophyte devotees, you have to bend the rules a little bit. I have to explain something very difficult. So the rules are bent, and this is why that verse, number 3, it begins with the phrase, translation, it is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive bottom of the Purusha. Well, the Bible probably said it is believed. What does that mean?
Some people believe it.
Some people believe it, or maybe you should believe it. You might also say, it may be believed, or it should be believed, or I suggest that you believe it. So, but it doesn't mean it's true. Do you understand? When you say, I believe, they talk about me, they say, I believe she's not quite 100. You can believe it or not, but so it has a sense of humor about it, and a challenge. So for us to understand the entire Bhagavatam, which of course the essence is the 10th canto in Krishna's pastime. If you go directly to Krishna's pastime, it's not different from Bollywood or Hollywood. Absolutely. Because you just read it and say, oh my God, he flirts with every 10,000 wives. And he does this, and then he does this. And then you have evidence saying, Krishna and the gopis are never mentioned in Mahabharata. There's no Radha in Mahabharata. Radha's name is not mentioned in Bhagavatam. There's a vague reference. So there's no mention of Vrindavan in the Mahabharata. You see? So then especially if you're from Hindu father, saying, why is that not mentioned? Is that a new story? And then another thing is this. It says in this verse that Narada Muni is the author of Narada Pancharatra. Well, if you look up Narada Pancharatra, when it appeared, they generally say about 900 years ago. But here, it is suggested that it came at the beginning of creation. So how do you account for this? You cannot account for it logically. Not if you want to spend 2 weeks in research, because you become more bewildered. So how to accept it is by following Prabhupada. Prabhupada actually gives, but Prabhupada only tips his hand. He doesn't say, for you people, we're telling it in a bit of, I'm not saying allegory, but in a reduced way so that you can accept because our philosophy is Veda Abeda. How can you have Veda and Abeda? It doesn't even make sense. Veda means,
Different.
yes, means broken. Abeda means not unbroken. So it's simultaneously broken and unbroken. How do you understand it? You can't understand it. So it's ācaṣṭa. Ācaṣṭa means you cannot logically explain it. There's no logic. So how do you accept it? If there's no logic, because you use my phrase, it's only logical to assume there's something higher than logic. So with the tool of logic, you take out logic and you enter into another sphere which is not amenable to logic. See, this world, let's talk about physics. No? Like this pretends that is given like physics, origin of the world, origin of the world. So physics, what is one of the symptoms of physics? How do you determine what is true in physics? What do you use besides that? Why do you use all this apparatus? What is the main view? What is the main sense you use in scanning the apparatus to see what it's telling you? Which sense? Look at me. I'm telling you already. Which sense? Your eye. So your eye becomes the main theologian, so to speak. The eye tells you, yeah, it says right on the screen in black and white. And then, if it's very, very subtle, then you smell it. But most laboratories, they are not smelling stuff, okay? They might smell something, but it's usually negative. So, you don't learn by smelling, you learn by seeing. And what is the second sense? What would be the second evidence?
Hearing?
Hearing. You've heard, the research you've done, and you've heard that, this is so. So you research, you do your PhD on a topic that you've heard is very interesting and challenging, and you do your topic on that thing. Because you heard, you didn't see it, you didn't experience it. You think, wow, this is very interesting. Namaste. So hearing, Shastra, we call it Shastra. Then what else is there? Seeing, maybe touching. There's many experience you do with touch, you're doing all kinds of experience with animals and plants and touch, etc. But all of it is based on the ordinary senses. You don't have to be a theist to do the experiments. As a matter of fact, if you're an atheist, you could probably get better karmaṇāṁ. So this is the material world and evidence how it exists and what exists. But what is happening here is not actually the material world. It appears like this. Its appearance. And this is what Prabhupada is indicating. That this material world and Krishna, or the Supreme, has nothing to do with the created material energy. His body is eternal and spiritual existence par excellence. And it says all the planets are situated on his body. Then also in the verse, it says, like when you look at your skin, hair is coming out of the pore of your skin. So it says, planets are pouring out, so to speak, out of the pores of the skin of the Purusha. But it gives it, why does it give an analogy, a metaphor like this? Why?
Because we can relate to it.
Because we can relate to it. I have a skin with pores and the sweat's coming out. Or I'm auriculating, my hair's standing on it. So the whole thing is given for you to understand that Krishna is remote par excellence. He is not available to the material mind. So this is the number one thing we should understand. So where we begin with Nārada, first, you could say incarnation in a sense. It's so beautiful because he's the greatest cheater. What is he famous for? Any Bollywood movie? Nārada.
Creates a pause between the people.
Yeah, he creates tricks. When Krishna's born, he says, you really know whose kid this is? Do you understand? He's a troublemaker. When things are quite smooth, he comes as a troublemaker. So if you look online, Nārada is called the trickster. The greatest trickster is Krishna. But the second greatest trickster, he comes, they say, what did they say when they use the word? He hobnobs. You know what that means? He hobnobs from planet to planet, affair to affair, to interject, make confusion, so that confusion in the end can be understood what it is. Like Krishna is born from Devaki and her husband, but actually he's Yashodananda. He's Beta of Yashodananda. So how am I going to make all these changes? So you cannot use ordinary logic. So what is the beautiful thing? So I've studied this quite deeply last night and a little bit this morning. Also, and of course, whenever I give a talk on any chapter, I read the entire chapter, and I also read something from the previous chapter. I never just comment on the verse, because this is always misleading. We have to see, how does this fit in? So, as Prabhupada said earlier, this is for neophytes. How this account of the creation is given is for neophytes. So you can have a blackboard and your kid can make a list of all the incarnations and what type and where and how. And then they think they know the incarnation. Do they know Krishna's incarnations? Of course not. Of course not. It's completely in a different dimension. It says Krishna is not even in this dimension. He's not even here. So it is like I've pointed out many times. Let's say here's a picture of a demigod, okay? And I say, okay, this is Nārada Muni. I say, this is Nārada Muni. So who wants to contradict me? Oh no, this is better. I take this book, I say, here's a picture of Radha and Krishna. Who can deny that this is Radha and Krishna? Who wants to deny it? Please have a sense of humor and deny it. You say, this is colored pixel on paper. What do you mean this is Krishna, Radha? This is a picture on a piece of paper. So I've pointed this many times. It's on a different dimension. The paper is two-dimensional. Radha and Krishna here are, the Murti is in three-dimensional. But where do they live? In what dimension? They live in fourth dimension. They're not here. Are they under the modes of material nature? You are, and I am. So, to understand, how to understand this means we actually have to move to the higher dimension. And how do you reach a higher dimension of consciousness? Anyone? What did you say? Bhakti. Yeah, oh, bhakti. Okay, but what's the process? What do you do? Well, what do you do?
Wouldn't you have to find somebody who's on that higher, someone who's on that path and find out from them?
Yeah, so on bhakti literally, it does not mean devotion. That's not the meaning of the sentence. Bhakti means to share. So what are you sharing? Most of all, you're sharing Sambhava. But what you're really sharing is something with Krishna himself. And what is the main thing we share with Krishna? What do we have in common with Krishna?
Eternality?
Yes, but first it's much more important. I have to say, quality is Krishna. I'm as good as Krishna. Prabhupada points out, you're as good as Krishna. He points out, just as a piece of gold is as good as a pound of gold, so you're as good as Krishna, but to a very small degree. But that is God. That small degree is so big we can't even understand it. So what we are going to share is my Krishna-ness. That's why we call it Krishna consciousness. I'm becoming conscious. I'm sharing with Krishna that I am part and part of Krishna. That is real bhakti. So in bhakti, the main methodology is meditation. It's meditation, whether you're doing, let's say, work, like it's pointed out beautifully in this purport. A cure is performed with the same thing that caused the disease. Like I ate so much burfi last night made of milk, now I have to eat yogurt to cure it. Both are milk products. So I'm curing my milk problem with a milk cure. So that work that we do, that Prabhupada points out, is as fruit of activity, karma, the same work you do for Krishna, but the capital W, and it's called Bhakti Yoga. You're linking with sharing. You're sharing your energy for Krishna. You're cooking, I come in the kitchen, so many people are cutting and doing and washing dishes. Some new girl came, she said, can I do seva or can I do volunteer work? I said, don't tell me you're ready to wash dishes in the kitchen. She said, oh yeah, I'm ready to wash dishes. Can you imagine a person just walking on the property? You see? That's how humble people are. They want to share. So we share that which we already are. And what we already are, what is our main feature? You can say anything you like. Your main feature, one of your main features. Your real feature, not artificial.
Consciousness.
Consciousness, yes. The main feature is consciousness. And one of the symptoms of consciousness, or it's not really a symptom, in the milieu of consciousness, that I am immortal. We are immortal. So we have to realize our immortality. There's neither birth nor death. It's just illusory. That's why Prabhupada begins all the time. You're not this body, you're not this body. Because then Prabhupada says, you're not this body, you're not this body. This is excellent, but I always add one more phrase. Does anybody know what it is? I've said it so many times. You're not this body, but you have a body. You have a body. So to become body negative is completely wrong. What do I do all the cutting in the kitchen with? Don't I do it with my hands? Don't I walk? Don't I surf? Don't I bring the harmonium with I walk on my legs? So don't be body negative, but understand that you have a body. And who are you? Who are the you that has a body? Who is that you? Atma. That is the point. Part of Paramatma. So the last, towards the end of this chapter, Prabhupada says, how to understand this, because it cannot be understood on a physical level. It's misunderstood. It's metaphysical, and it's really not material. So Prabhupada says, all this explanation that we're reading about the incarnation, guess what it is? You'll not guess what it is. Simply a meditation on Brahman. And he repeats it 2 or 3 times. It is a meditation on Brahman. What do you think of that? It's not even a meditation on Krishna Lila, or Paramatma, but on Brahman. So what does Brahman allow you to do? If you meditate on Brahman, what is the result? Why does anybody meditate? Why do millions, trillions of people meditate on Brahman? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na Sachiti na Pangshite. Because you become happy. So when we're studying this and we take it as if the description is actually for neophytes, and hopefully we're rising above the neophyte platform, there's a sense of humor there. And you are blissful, and it's a meditation on Brahman. So this is, if you read the purport to verse 35, Prabhupada gives this. So I'm going to reiterate the problem again. So when you come out of the class, you think, how shall I formulate what I was talking about? So it says the problem. I just wrote this a while ago. We are trying to explain in terms of physics, i.e., that what is amenable to the senses and can be proved logically, but what is also to be understood as metaphysical, beyond the senses. Hence, it can only be approached in terms of meditation on Brahman, as Prabhupada says, i.e., entering to the 4th state of Shuddha Sattva consciousness. And that is the whole goal of reading the Gita, is entering to the 4th stage of consciousness, the demodes. There's nothing else. So the Bhagavata, of course, gives far more information of how is this to be done. Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses. The Bhagavatam is, I don't know, 18,000 verses or something. So, incredible information is available. But we should know the goal, and we should know our position. If I don't know that to what degree I'm diseased, and I can't even name my disease, it's very difficult to overcome the disease. But if I know that, no, I'm lacking in vitamin D, and I have to spend time in the sunshine, then that's what I'm going to do. So, logic logic per se cannot approach it. So, when you chant japa, you don't use any logic. What do you use when you do your japa? You don't use logic. What do you use?
Faith.
What is it? Faith, yeah, and among other things. And what else?
Your tongue, your ears, and your brain.
What is it?
Your tongue, your ears, and your brain.
Yeah, exactly. And your tongue is engaged. Your brain is actually becoming relaxed. And you empty your mind of any other thought except the mantra. Only 3 words. And those 3 words are being pointed out many times. What you call in Sanskrit the vocative. Vocative means to invoke. When I say Krishna, Hare Krishna, I'm not talking about Krishna. What am I doing?
Addressing.
I'm calling him. Say, hey, Krishna. When I say Rama, no, I don't say, yeah, Rama, not Rama. I'm not talking about Ram. I'm calling him. When I'm saying Hare, I'm addressing Hara. I say, Hara, come here. And it's called Hare. It's like when you address me, you want me to really come, you don't say Radhika, you say Radhike. Why do we say Radhe? Because I'm calling Radha. I'm not talking about Radha behind her back. I'm saying Radhe, Radhe, come, I'm your servant of Radha. So the vocative. And then we have locative. In what place? Vocative and locative. Locative means the place. The place that we're talking about is higher than Vaikuntha. This is Goloka, but Vaikuntha is good too. Because Prabhupada gave pictures of the deity, how we should dress, very beautiful, very royalty. This is Vaikuntha style. Otherwise you might identify Radha and Krishna in the lower way. You think, wow, Bollywood style. So we keep them as king, queen, beautifully dressed, very formal. Radha doesn't stand in a 3-banded form, does she? How would she? No. Krishna can be, but not. She's feminine. Do we see her feet? No. Only on her birthday. It's very high chastity there. So this is how we get attracted. So we go in the Vaikuntha mode to Goloka Vrindavan. And that is the place. So we always say the locus, the place, and the focus. And we have given Nam Bhajan to have only, how many syllables? 6 syllables to lure us into Goloka Vrindavan. What do you think of this? 6 syllables, 3 names. Pariyathe. So it's astounding. So then Prabhupada again, at the end of